I sat at my parents' dinner table that Sunday evening, fork in hand, watching my mother serve pot roast with that familiar smile she reserved only for my brother. My father beamed across the table, praising his recent promotion to assistant manager at the car dealership. When I tried to share news about my work, my mother interrupted with a light chuckle. "You'll never be as good as your brother." Something inside me snapped. I stood up, my voice surprisingly steady. "Then tell him to pay all the bills. I'm not sending money anymore." My mother's face drained of color. "What money? We never received a single dollar from you." The fork I'd been holding clattered against my plate. I stood there, frozen, staring at my mother's genuinely confused expression. For 5 years, every single month without fail, I had transferred $2,000 to what I believed was my parents' bank account. That was $120,000 total, gone. "What do you mean you never received anything?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. "I've been sending you money since I was 27 years old." My father set down his glass of iced tea, his brow furrowing. "Jeanette, we haven't received any money from you. We thought you were too busy with your own life to help out." My brother sat across from me, still scrolling through his phone with that casual disinterest he always showed during family dinners. He didn't even look up. I pulled my phone from my purse with shaking hands, opening my banking app. "Look, right here." I turned the screen toward my parents, showing them the transaction history. Row after row of transfers, every month, $2,000 each. It's all documented, every payment. My mother leaned in, squinting at the screen. She pulled her reading glasses from her pocket and studied the numbers. My father moved his chair closer, examining the account number listed as the recipient. "That's not our account," my father said quietly. He pulled his worn leather wallet from his back pocket, extracted a folded check, and compared the numbers. "This isn't even close to our bank account number." The room seemed to tilt. I gripped the edge of the table. "What? That can't be right. I've been using the same number for 5 years. "Where did you get this account number?" my mother asked, her voice taking on an edge I couldn't quite identify. I thought back, my mind racing through memories. The realization hit me like cold water. It was when I first got my new job. "I wanted to help you both out. I called to ask for your account information, but you weren't home. So My brother finally looked up from his phone. "Oh yeah, I remember that. I gave you the account number. You were in such a hurry, remember? Had some big meeting or something." Every eye in the room turned to him. "You gave her what?" my father asked slowly. "The account number. Mom and Dad had just switched banks, remember? You asked me to help them set everything up because you were traveling for work, Jeanette. I was just trying to help coordinate everything." His voice was smooth, practiced, almost convincing. My mother shook her head. "We never switched banks. We've been with the same credit union for 30 years. The color drained from my brother's face for just a second, before he recovered. "What? Are you sure? I could have sworn you mentioned something about a new account." "Where did my money go?" I demanded, my voice rising. $120,000 doesn't just disappear. If you gave me the wrong number, whose account have I been sending money to?" "Hey, don't blame me for your mistake," he shot back, standing up from his chair. "If you sent money to the wrong place, that's on you. Maybe you should have double-checked. Instead of just trusting some random number, I probably just wrote it down wrong or something. You know how bad my handwriting is." "Your handwriting?" I stared at him. "You texted it to me. I still have the message." He shrugged. "Then I must have typed it wrong. Look, I was trying to help. If I made a mistake 5 years ago, I'm sorry. But you can't put this on me. You're the one with the fancy finance job. Shouldn't you have verified the account before sending thousands of dollars?" My father held up his hand. Everyone calmed down. "Jeanette, do you still have that text message?" I scrolled through my phone, going back years through conversation threads. It's been 5 years. My phone has been wiped since then. I don't keep messages that old. "Convenient," my brother muttered. "What did you say?" I turned on him. I said it's convenient that you don't have proof. You show up here accusing me of stealing your money, but you can't prove I gave you any number at all. For all we know, you're making this whole thing up. Making it up? Why would I make this up? He leaned back against the counter, crossing his arms. His whole demeanor had shifted from defensive to offensive. I don't know, Jeanette. You tell me. Maybe you've got some gambling debts you need to explain. Maybe you spent that money on something else, and now you're trying to blame me to cover your tracks. God knows you've always been jealous of the relationship I have with Mom and Dad. Jealous? The word came out as a strangled laugh. Of what? Your assistant manager position at a car dealership? Your studio apartment? Your string of failed relationships? That's enough, my mother said sharply. Both of you. But I couldn't stop. 5 years of being dismissed. 5 years of being compared unfavorably. 5 years of sending money to help parents who apparently never received a dime of it. No, it's not enough. $120,000 is missing. That's not pocket change. That's not a simple mistake. Someone has that money, and I want to know who. Maybe you should call your bank, my father suggested, trying to mediate. They should be able to trace where the money went. Oh, I will, I promised, grabbing my purse. I absolutely will. And when I find out where that money went, we're going to have another conversation. My brother laughed, but it sounded forced. Good luck with that. I'm sure the bank will tell you the same thing I did. You sent money to the wrong account because you were careless. That's not fraud. That's just you being irresponsible. I looked at my mother, waiting for her to defend me, to question my brother's sudden change in attitude. But she just looked tired and confused, her pot roast growing cold on the table. I need to go, I said quietly. I walked out of that house with my entire body shaking, not from fear, but from a rage so pure. It felt like electricity in my veins. My brother had done something. I didn't know what yet, but every instinct I'd honed in my years as a chief financial officer was screaming that something was very, very wrong, and I was going to find out exactly what. Monday morning, I sat in my corner office at Nexus Solutions, staring at the quarterly reports on my screen, without really seeing them. My title was Chief Financial Officer of one of the fastest-growing tech startups in the region, but right now, all my expertise felt useless against the hollow feeling in my chest. During my lunch break, I drove to my bank branch. The manager, Gerald, was a middle-aged man who'd helped me set up my accounts when I first got my position at Nexus. He remembered me immediately. Miss Jeanette, what can I do for you today? I need complete transfer history for the past 5 years, I said, sliding my identification across his desk. Every transaction, every account number, everything. He raised his eyebrows but nodded. That's quite a bit of data. May I ask what this is regarding? I've been sending money to what I thought was a family account. Turns out it wasn't. I need to know where my money actually went. Gerald's expression shifted to professional concern. I see. Let me pull those records for you. 20 minutes later, I sat in his office with printouts spread across the desk. Gerald had highlighted every $2,000 transfer in yellow. They marched down the page in perfect chronological order, never missing a month. The receiving account, Gerald said, pointing to the number, is registered to a business entity, not an individual. Family Trust Solutions, LLC. My stomach dropped. A business? Not a personal account? Correct. The company was registered 5 years ago in Delaware. Very common for financial holding companies. He pulled up more information on his computer. The business address listed is a P.O. box. Can you tell me who owns the company? Not from our records, but I can tell you who the authorized account signers are. He wrote down 2 names on a notepad and pushed it across the desk. Marcus Webb. And a second name I didn't recognize immediately, but the signature looked familiar. Thank you, Gerald. Can I get copies of all of this? Absolutely. I'll also note in your file that you've reported this as potential fraud. Have you contacted the police? Not yet, but I will. I left the bank with a thick folder of documents and a phone number for a private investigator that Gerald had quietly suggested. By that evening, I'd hired Diane Marshall, a former FBI agent who now ran her own investigation firm. "Give me 3 days," Diane had said over the phone, her voice crisp and efficient. "I'll find out everything about this Family Trust Solutions and the people behind it." Those 3 days crawled by like 3 years. I couldn't concentrate at work. I couldn't sleep. I kept running through scenarios in my mind, trying to make sense of how my brother could be connected to a shell company. On Thursday evening, Diane called. "You need to sit down for this," she said. I was already sitting in my living room, but I braced myself anyway. "Tell me." Family Trust Solutions, LLC is owned by Marcus Webb, who happens to be your brother's best friend from high school. Your brother is listed as a silent partner, though he tried to hide that through a subsidiary. The company has multiple accounts. Yours isn't the only one receiving regular deposits. "What do you mean?" "I mean, your brother has been running a systematic fraud operation. I've identified at least 12 other people who've been sending money to various accounts controlled by this company. Most of them think they're sending money to family members. Some think they're investing in legitimate businesses. All of them are being scammed." I felt like I couldn't breathe. 12 other people? At least. I'm still tracing connections. But Jeanette, there's more, and it's worse. How could it possibly be worse? Your brother used your identity. He forged your signature on loan applications, took out 3 credit cards in your name. The total fraudulent debt in your name right now is $87,000. The room spun. "What?" "I pulled your credit report. Your score has dropped 200 points. You've got late payments, maxed out cards, collection notices. All of it traces back to accounts you never opened." "But I would have known. I would have gotten statements, phone calls." "All the statements went to a P.O. box that he controlled. Same one listed for the business. He's been intercepting your mail for years." I realized I was crying, hot tears of rage streaming down my face. How did I not know? How did I not see this? "Because you trusted your family," Diane said gently. "That's not a weakness, Jeanette. That's what makes you human. But we need to act fast. With your permission, I'm going to continue digging. There's more here. I can feel it." "Do whatever it takes," I said. "I want to know everything." The next revelation came 2 days later. I'd applied for a mortgage the month before, hoping to finally buy my first house. It was a small ranch-style home in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but it was mine, or it was supposed to be. The lender called on Saturday morning. "Miss Jeanette, I'm afraid we're going to have to deny your application." "What? Why?" "I have excellent income, job security, savings. Your credit score doesn't meet our requirements. Additionally, your debt-to-income ratio is concerning. I'm seeing multiple accounts in collections, maxed credit cards." "Those aren't mine," I interrupted. "Someone stole my identity. I'm working with investigators right now." "I understand, but until those items are removed from your credit report through the proper channels, we cannot approve your loan. I'm sorry. You'll also be forfeiting your earnest money deposit as per the contract terms. $15,000. Gone. Just like that." The dream house went to another buyer that same day. I called my parents that evening, needing to hear their voices, needing to explain what I'd discovered. My brother answered their phone. "They're busy," he said flatly. "Put my mother on the phone." I said they're busy. "Besides, after the scene you caused last week, maybe you should give them some space." "What are you doing answering their phone?" "I moved in last week. My apartment had a flood, major water damage. They offered to let me stay here while it gets fixed." His voice was smug. "We're all getting along great. It's nice to finally have some family time without all the drama." He hung up before I could respond. I sat on my couch, staring at my phone, and realized what he'd done. He'd isolated me, destroyed my credit, stolen my money, positioned himself as the good son while painting me as the unstable one. And now he was living with my parents, controlling their access, probably feeding them lies about me every single day. The trap had been set years ago. I'd just been too blind to see it closing around me. 1 week later, I sat across from Robert Hastings, an attorney specializing in fraud and identity theft. His office was small but professional, lined with law books and certificates. I'd laid out everything for him: the bank records, Diane's investigation report, the credit card statements in my name that I'd never signed for. "This is substantial," Robert said, flipping through the documents. "You have a strong case, but I need to be honest with you. Cases like this take months, sometimes years. We need an ironclad evidence chain. Your brother will get a good attorney who'll try to poke holes in everything. So what do? We file a police report for fraud and identity theft. We begin the process of disputing the credit accounts. We document everything, and we prepare for a long fight." He looked at me seriously. "Can you handle that?" "I don't have a choice." "Actually, you do. You could walk away, cut your losses. Some people do. That's $120,000, plus $87,000 in fraudulent debt. That's not cutting losses. That's letting him win." Robert nodded approvingly. "Then let's get started. I'll need you to gather every document you have, every email, text message, bank statement, anything that shows a pattern of deception." I spent the weekend compiling everything into organized folders, both physical and digital. On Monday, I filed a formal police report. The officer who took my statement seemed sympathetic, but warned me that financial fraud cases were difficult to prosecute, especially within families, he said. Family members often refuse to testify against each other. "My brother isn't family anymore," I replied. "He's a criminal who happens to share my DNA." But before I could move forward with confronting my brother formally, everything exploded in a direction I never saw coming. On Tuesday morning, my CEO, Douglas Patterson, called me into an emergency meeting. Douglas was usually cheerful and casual, but his face was grave as I entered the conference room. 3 board members sat around the table, their expressions cold. "Jeanette, please sit down," Douglas said. My stomach dropped. "What's going on?" "We received an anonymous email last night. It was sent to all board members and several key investors." He slid a printed copy across the table to me. I read it with growing horror. The email contained detailed allegations that I had been embezzling company funds. Attached were what appeared to be financial documents showing regular transfers from Nexus Solutions to Family Trust Solutions, LLC. The documents had my digital signature. The dates corresponded with my access to the company's financial systems. "This isn't real," I said immediately. "These documents are forged. We're aware that you're currently under investigation for personal financial fraud," one of the board members said. Her voice was ice cold. "These allegations, combined with your personal situation, create significant concerns." "Under investigation?" "I'm not under investigation. I'm the victim. My brother stole my identity and—" "Your brother claims you've been harassing him," Douglas interrupted quietly. "He filed a complaint with our HR department yesterday. Said you've been making threats, trying to blame him for your own financial problems." The room tilted. "He what?" "Jeanette, I've known you for 4 years. I don't want to believe any of this, but we have a fiduciary duty to our investors. Until we can sort this out, the board has decided to place you on administrative leave." "You're suspending me?" "With pay, pending an internal investigation." "I'm sorry. I really am, but my hands are tied." I looked around the table at faces that had trusted me, that had relied on my financial expertise to guide the company through crucial decisions. Now they looked at me like I was a stranger, a threat. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "As long as it takes. 2 weeks, maybe more. We've hired an outside forensic accounting firm to audit all of our financial records." They escorted me back to my office to collect my personal belongings. IT was already there, imaging my computer hard drive, boxing up my files. Within an hour, I was walking out of the building with a cardboard box in my arms, my access badge deactivated, my company email shut down. My phone started ringing before I even got to my car. It was a headhunter I'd worked with before, someone who'd helped place several of my colleagues at top firms. "Jeanette, I just heard. I need to warn you that your name is being circulated in some very negative contexts right now. Multiple firms have called me asking about your background. Someone is actively trying to blacklist you in the industry." "Someone," I repeated. "My brother. I can't help you right now. I'm sorry. Until this is resolved, associating with you could damage my reputation too. I hope you understand." She hung up before I could respond. Over the next 3 days, it got worse. Articles appeared online about the CFO of Nexus Solutions being investigated for embezzlement. My LinkedIn profile was flooded with anonymous comments questioning my integrity. Former colleagues stopped returning my calls. Professional contacts I'd maintained for years suddenly couldn't find time to meet for coffee. The mortgage lender officially denied my loan. My earnest money was forfeit. The house I'd dreamed of was gone, sold to a family who probably had no idea about the heartbreak attached to it for me. My professional reputation, built over a decade of hard work and expertise, was crumbling in real time. And then my parents called. My mother's voice was shaky when I answered. "Jeanette, we need to talk about what your brother told us." "What did he tell you?" "That you're being investigated for stealing money from your company. That you've been making threats against him. That you tried to blame him for your own mistakes." She paused. "Is it true?" "No, Mom, none of that is true. He's lying to you. He's the one who stole from me, who forged my signature, who..." He showed us documents. My father's voice came on the line. "They had me on speaker. Official-looking papers from your company. Articles online. All about you being suspended from your job. Because he framed me. He planted fake evidence to make it look like I was embezzling. The same way he stole my identity and racked up debt in my name. The same way he stole $120,000 from me." "You're not making sense," my mother said. "Your brother has been nothing but supportive of us. He's living here, helping with the bills, cooking dinner every night. Meanwhile, you show up making wild accusations. I have proof, bank records, investigation reports." "Your brother said you would say that," my father interrupted. "He said you'd try to manufacture evidence against him because you can't accept responsibility for your own actions." Something broke inside me then. Not dramatically, not loudly. Just a quiet snap, like a thread pulled too tight. "I see," I said softly. "He's turned you completely against me." "We're just trying to understand the truth," my mother said. "The truth is that I've been sending you $2,000 a month for 5 years, thinking I was helping you. The truth is that money went to my brother's shell company instead. The truth is that he destroyed my credit, stole my identity, and is now destroying my career to cover his tracks. The truth is that I'm the daughter who loved you enough to sacrifice my own financial security, and you chose to believe the son who's been lying to you for years." "Jeanette, I'm done," I said. "I'm done trying to prove myself to you. I'm done being the family disappointment. I'm done sending money, making excuses, and begging for scraps of your attention. When you finally figure out who your son really is, don't call me expecting an apology, because I won't be waiting anymore." I hung up before they could respond. That night, I sat in my apartment eating ramen noodles, because that's all I could afford. My savings were nearly depleted from attorney fees and the lost earnest money. My salary had stopped with my suspension. I'd applied for unemployment, but since I'd been fired for cause, I'd been denied. I was a former CFO of a successful tech company, now making calculations about whether I could afford both groceries and electricity this month. My brother had won. He'd taken everything, almost everything. 2 weeks after my suspension became a termination, I stood in a small retail store wearing a name tag that said bookkeeper and made $12 per hour. It was 1/3 of my previous salary. I'd applied to 37 companies for positions anywhere close to my skill level. Every single one had Googled my name, found the articles about the embezzlement scandal, and politely declined to move forward with my application. The retail job was all I could get. My boss was a kind woman named Catherine, who either hadn't Googled me or didn't care. She just needed someone who could handle basic accounting and payroll. I'd sold my car to pay Robert, my attorney. Now I took the bus to work, a 90-minute commute each way. My apartment lease was coming up for renewal, and I couldn't afford the increase. I'd already started looking at cheaper places, smaller places, in neighborhoods I'd never considered safe enough before. This was my life now. But Robert and Diane were still working, and what they discovered made my financial struggles seem almost insignificant compared to the scope of my brother's crimes. "Your brother didn't work alone," Diane told me over coffee one Saturday morning. She'd insisted on meeting at a diner near my apartment, and I suspected she'd checked to make sure I could afford the $5 breakfast special. His girlfriend works at a credit bureau. His girlfriend? Shauna. They've been together for 3 years. She's the one who manipulated your credit reports, added the fraudulent accounts, tanked your score. She has access to the system and knows how to cover her tracks. Diane pulled out a folder, and it gets worse. She's working with Marcus, your brother's friend who owns the shell company. This is an organized ring, Jeanette. They've targeted 17 victims that we know of, but you're the only one whose career they systematically destroyed. Why me specifically? Because you're a CFO. You have the skills to uncover their scheme. The others are mostly elderly people, small business owners, individuals without financial expertise. But you could expose them, so they had to neutralize you first. The realization settled over me like cold water. They planned this from the beginning. Your brother has been planning this for years, positioning himself as the golden child while slowly isolating you, destroying your credibility so that when you finally discovered the fraud, no one would believe you. It worked, I said bitterly. Not completely. We have evidence. We're building a case. But Jeanette, Diane hesitated. There's something else. Your brother filed a restraining order against you yesterday. He what? Claims you've been harassing him, threatening violence. He submitted text messages as evidence, supposedly from your phone number, threatening to hurt him. I never sent those messages. I know. They're spoofed. He or someone working with him used software to fake texts from your number, but the judge granted a temporary restraining order. You cannot go within 500 feet of your brother. You cannot contact him directly. You cannot go to your parents' house while he's living there. For how long? Until the hearing in 2 weeks. At that hearing, we can present evidence that the messages are fake. But until then, if you violate this order, you'll be arrested. I stared at my coffee, watching the cream swirl into patterns. He's blocking me from my parents. That's exactly what he's doing. And Jeanette, your parents' health is declining. Your father's diabetes has gotten worse. Your mother's having heart problems. They need medical care, proper medication management. My brother is taking care of that, right? Diane's expression was grim. That's what concerns me. I did some checking on their prescriptions. Your father's insulin hasn't been refilled in 3 weeks. My head snapped up. 3 weeks? He could die. I've contacted Adult Protective Services, but your brother has already filed a report with them, claiming that you were financially abusing your parents. He has documents, fake records, a whole narrative built up. The APS investigator sided with him. Of course they did. He's living with them, appearing devoted. I'm the daughter with the restraining order and the embezzlement scandal. We'll fight this. But we need to be strategic. We need evidence that's so overwhelming that no one can deny it. Over the next week, things continued to spiral. My former company, Nexus Solutions, contacted me with new information. Someone had attempted to hack their financial system again, trying to transfer actual funds this time, not just plant evidence. The IT department had traced the hack patterns back to the same signature as the original frame job. We think you might have been telling the truth, the IT director told me over the phone, but we still can't reinstate you without proof. The board is spooked. They need absolute certainty. Absolute certainty. That's what everyone needed. Absolute certainty that I wasn't a criminal. when my brother had spent years building a labyrinth of lies so complex that finding the truth felt like searching for one specific grain of sand on a beach. But then Diane called with something that sounded like hope. I found another victim. Her name is Patricia. She lost $40,000 to your brother's scheme. She's willing to testify. That's good, right? It's better than good. She kept everything. Every email, every text message, every fake document he sent her. And she's been in contact with 6 other victims. They want to meet with you. The meeting happened in Patricia's living room on a Thursday evening. 7 people, ranging from ages 30 to 70, all connected by the same betrayal. We sat in a circle, sharing stories, and the pattern was unmistakable. My brother and his network of accomplices had perfected a system of exploiting trust, manipulating records, and covering their tracks. We should pool our resources, Patricia suggested. She was a retired accountant, sharp and organized. Hire one forensic accountant to trace all the money. Build one comprehensive case. Together, we're stronger. We agreed. Each of us contributed what we could afford. For me, that meant my next 2 paychecks from the retail job, money I needed for rent and food. But this was bigger than my immediate needs. This was about stopping my brother before he destroyed more lives. The forensic accountant we hired was named Jonathan, and within a week, he found what we needed. The money trail through the shell companies, the pattern of fake accounts, the connections between my brother, Marcus, and Shauna. But we were running out of time. Diane called me at work one Tuesday afternoon, her voice urgent. Your brother is applying for a reverse mortgage on your parents' house. A reverse mortgage? But they're still living there. Exactly. The house is worth $450,000. He's trying to drain the equity. After that, he'll let it go into foreclosure, and your parents will be homeless. They don't know, do they? He forged power of attorney documents. Your parents have no idea this is happening. We have to warn them. You can't. The restraining order. If you contact them, you'll be arrested. I tried anyway. That evening, I borrowed a friend's phone and called my parents' house. My brother answered on the first ring. Nice try, Jeanette. I know it's you. How did you? Caller ID shows your friend's name. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? His voice was cold. Stay away from this family. You're not wanted here. You're stealing their house. You're going to make them homeless. I'm managing their finances because they can't trust you to do it. Now stop calling, or I'll report this violation to the court. He hung up. I sat on the floor of my tiny apartment, my back against the wall, and realized that I'd lost this round too. My brother had isolated my parents, poisoned them against me, and was now systematically stealing everything they owned. And there was nothing I could do to stop him. Not yet. 1 month after my termination, Diane called me with news that made my blood run cold. The reverse mortgage is moving faster than we thought. Your brother expedited the application. Closing is in 15 days. 15 days? That's not enough time for the legal system, even with all our evidence. I know. That's why I kept digging. Jeanette, your brother made a mistake. Just one, but it might be enough. I sat up straighter on my second-hand couch. What kind of mistake? He used the same laptop for everything. Personal email, fraud operations, all of it. I got access to some email metadata through one of the other victims who he'd corresponded with. The timestamps show he was physically at your company's office building the day the fake embezzlement documents were uploaded to the board's server. He visited me at work that day, I said, memory flooding back. He said he was bringing me lunch, being nice for once. I thought it was weird. It wasn't nice. It was calculated. He needed physical access to your office network to make the frame job look authentic. But here's what he didn't know. Your building has security cameras, and they keep footage for 18 months. Do we have the footage? I'm working on it. Your former IT director is sympathetic. He's pulling the archives. If we can show your brother using a visitor computer terminal on that exact date and time, it proves he had opportunity to plant the fake evidence. It was the first real hope I'd felt in weeks. But my brother wasn't done. Diane called me 3 days later. He knows about the investigation. Someone tipped him off. Maybe someone in the police department. Maybe someone else in his network. Either way, he's panicking. What's he doing? Accelerating everything. The reverse mortgage closing date just moved up to 3 days from now. Marcus is closing all the shell company accounts. Shauna is altering digital records at the credit bureau. They're destroying evidence. 3 days. That was 72 hours to save my parents from losing their home, to expose my brother's crimes, to salvage what was left of my own life. It wasn't enough time. And then my father ended up in the hospital. The call came from a nurse at 2 in the morning. My father had collapsed. A diabetic emergency. His blood sugar had dropped to dangerous levels. When the paramedics arrived, they found him unconscious in his bedroom. "Is he going to be okay?" I asked, my voice shaking. "He's stable now, but it was close. His insulin prescription hadn't been refilled. How long has he been without medication?" "I don't know. I haven't been allowed to see him. Family issues? Something like that." The nurse was quiet for a moment. "He's asking for you. Room 412. I threw on clothes and caught the first bus to the hospital. It was 5 in the morning when I arrived. I knew I was violating the restraining order by going near my parents, but my father was in a hospital bed, and nothing else mattered. My mother sat in the chair beside him, looking small and exhausted. She looked up when I entered, her expression shifting through surprise, anger, and something else I couldn't quite identify. "What are you doing here?" "The hospital called me. He's my father." "You're not supposed to be here," your brother said. "Where is my brother?" I interrupted. "Dad's in the hospital, and where is he?" My mother's face crumpled. "I don't know. I called him 5 times. He's not answering." I pulled out my phone, set a timer for 3 minutes. "Mom, I need you to listen to me. I know you don't believe me. I know he's convinced you that I'm the problem. But I have 3 minutes before security gets here, and I need you to see something." I pulled up the files on my phone, bank records showing the shell company, the forensic accountant's report, testimony from the other fraud victims, the trail of my stolen identity. All of it, condensed into images and documents that told an undeniable story. Your brother has been stealing from me for 5 years. He's stolen from 12 other people too, and right now, he's trying to steal your house through a reverse mortgage you never authorized. My mother took my phone with shaking hands, scrolling through the images. Her lips moved silently as she read. "This can't be real." "It is. And Dad's insulin wasn't refilled because your brother forgot. He has access to your insurance information. He could have ordered the refills. He chose not to." "No, he wouldn't. He's been taking care of us." "Has he? Or has he been isolating you, controlling your money, making you dependent on him?" I checked my timer. 2 minutes left. "Mom, where is he right now?" "Dad is in the hospital, and your son isn't here." "Why?" She didn't have an answer. Security arrived then, 2 officers and a nurse. I held up my hands. "I'm leaving. I just needed to see my father." But as they escorted me toward the door, my mother's voice stopped me. "Wait." The security officers paused. My mother stood up, still clutching my phone. "I need to check something. Give me 1 hour. Don't arrest her yet." They looked at each other, confused. But something in my mother's voice, some note of command they couldn't ignore, made them nod. My mother left the hospital room, my phone still in her hand. I sat in the hallway, security officers flanking me, for 55 minutes. I watched the sky lighten through the windows, watched nurses change shifts, watched the hospital wake up for another day. When my mother returned, her face was gray. She carried a folder I recognized from my parents' home office. "I went through your father's files," she said quietly. "I found the checkbook, the credit card statements, insurance records." She opened the folder with trembling hands. "These signatures aren't his. I've been married to him for 43 years. I know his handwriting. These documents are forged." She pulled out a small notebook. "I found this hidden in your brother's room. It has account numbers, passwords, notes about the reverse mortgage. Everything you said is true." The security officers looked at each other, then at me, then at my mother. "Ma'am, do you want us to call the police?" "Yes," my mother said. Her voice broke. "Call the police, and call a lawyer. My daughter needs one." I was arrested that morning for violating the restraining order. I spent 6 hours in a holding cell before Robert, my attorney, posted bail. But it was worth it, because my mother had seen the truth, and she was willing to testify. The courtroom hearing was scheduled for the next morning. Robert filed an emergency motion to dismiss the restraining order and to freeze all financial accounts related to my brother and his accomplices. A judge agreed to hear our case on an expedited basis. I spent that night in my apartment, unable to sleep. My entire future balanced on what would happen in that courtroom. If the judge believed us, I had a chance. If not, I was looking at potential jail time for violating the restraining order, and my brother would complete his theft of my parents' home. Diane called at midnight. The security footage came through. "We have clear video of your brother at a visitor computer terminal in your office building at the exact timestamp the fake embezzlement documents were uploaded. The IT forensics team confirmed the upload came from that terminal. That proves he planted the evidence. It proves he had opportunity. Combined with everything else, it builds a strong circumstantial case. But Jeanette, there's more." "More?" "Shauna, your brother's girlfriend, was arrested 2 hours ago. The credit bureau discovered she'd been accessing restricted files without authorization. When they confronted her, she panicked and tried to delete her tracks. That just made it worse. She's cooperating with investigators now. She's testifying against him. She's giving them everything. The whole network. Marcus is already negotiating a plea deal. Your brother's operation is collapsing. I barely dared to hope. What about the other victims? All willing to testify. Patricia has organized them. They'll be in court tomorrow. And my parents? Your mother spent all night going through documents. She found evidence of medical neglect, forged signatures, manipulated bank statements. Your father's strong enough to be released from the hospital tomorrow morning. He wants to be in court too. When I walked into the courtroom the next morning, I barely recognized it as the same legal system that had failed me before. The room was full. Patricia and 6 other fraud victims sat in the gallery. Robert stood at our table, organized and prepared. Diane sat in the back with folders of evidence. My parents entered last. My father moved slowly, still weak from his hospital stay. My mother held his arm, guiding him to a seat. When she caught my eye, she nodded once. A small gesture, but it meant everything. My brother arrived with his attorney, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. My brother's face was calm, controlled. He'd perfected that mask over years of lying. The judge entered, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. "This is an emergency hearing regarding the restraining order issued against Jeanette. I've reviewed the preliminary motions. Mr. Hastings, you may proceed." Robert stood. "Your Honor, I'm moving to dismiss the restraining order on grounds that it was obtained through fraudulent evidence. Additionally, I'm requesting an emergency freeze on all accounts related to Family Trust Solutions LLC and associated entities, as well as an immediate halt to a reverse mortgage application currently in process." My brother's attorney objected, but the judge held up her hand. "I've read the briefs. They're quite detailed. I want to hear testimony." For the next 3 hours, Robert built his case methodically. He presented the bank records showing my 5 years of transfers to the shell company. Diane testified about her investigation, the pattern of fraud, the 17 victims. The forensic accountant walked through the money trail with charts and documentation that made it impossible to deny. Then came the security footage. The courtroom watched my brother walk into Nexus Solutions, sign in as a visitor, sit down at a public computer terminal. The timestamp matched exactly with the upload of the fake embezzlement documents. My brother's attorney tried to dismiss it. My client visiting his sister's workplace doesn't prove anything. It proves opportunity, Robert countered. Combined with motive, means, and a documented pattern of fraud, it proves intent. The other victims testified one by one. Patricia, who'd lost $40,000. An elderly couple who'd lost their retirement savings. A single mother who thought she was paying into a trust fund for her children. Each story was different, but the pattern was identical. My brother's network had targeted, manipulated, and stolen from vulnerable people. Then my mother took the stand. Her voice was steady as she testified about the forged signatures, the medical neglect, the reverse mortgage application she knew nothing about. She described how my brother had isolated her, and my father controlled their communication, convinced them that I was the problem. I was blind, she said. I wanted to believe my son was good. I wanted to believe my daughter was the one with problems. It was easier than accepting that I'd raised someone capable of this level of deception. She looked directly at the judge. But I see clearly now. My daughter tried to help us for years, and we pushed her away. Meanwhile, my son was stealing everything we had. My brother's attorney called him to testify in his own defense. It was a mistake. My brother sat in the witness chair with that same calm mask, but Robert's questions chipped away at it methodically. Where was he when his father was in the hospital? Why didn't he answer his mother's calls? Could he explain the security footage, the shell company, the forged documents? I was helping my sister manage money, he said. She was always bad with finances. The shell company was supposed to be a family trust. She's twisting everything because she got caught embezzling from her company and needs someone to blame. Then explain this, Robert said, presenting the evidence from Shauna. Her testimony, given to police earlier that morning, detailed exactly how they'd manipulated credit reports, forged documents, and coordinated to frame me. My brother's face finally cracked. She's lying. She's under oath, and facing charges herself. She has no reason to protect you. This is all fabricated. My sister is a CFO. She has the skills to manufacture evidence. She's been planning this revenge scheme for years. If she'd been planning revenge, why did she spend 5 years sending you $2,000 a month? My brother had no answer to that. The judge called a brief recess. When we returned, her expression was stone. I've heard enough. The restraining order is dismissed immediately. Additionally, I'm issuing arrest warrants for fraud, identity theft, and financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. I'm ordering an immediate freeze on all accounts associated with Family Trust Solutions LLC and related entities. The reverse mortgage application is void. This case is being referred to the FBI for federal wire fraud and mail fraud prosecution. 2 bailiffs moved toward my brother. He looked at me then, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Real, genuine fear. This isn't over, he said as they handcuffed him. Yes, I replied quietly. It is. The legal process moved surprisingly quickly after that. With Shauna and Marcus both cooperating, the evidence against my brother was overwhelming. He was indicted on 17 counts of fraud, identity theft, forgery, and financial exploitation. His attorney tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor, bolstered by the testimonies of so many victims, pushed for maximum penalties. 6 weeks later, my brother accepted a plea agreement. 12 years in federal prison, full restitution to all victims, all assets seized and liquidated at auction. I attended the sentencing hearing. My parents sat beside me, my father's hand in mine. When the judge asked if anyone wanted to speak, I stood. Your Honor, my brother stole $120,000 from me. He destroyed my credit, my career, my relationship with my parents. He put my father in the hospital through medical neglect. He tried to steal my parents' home. But the worst thing he stole was years of my peace. Years of thinking I wasn't good enough, smart enough, worthy enough to deserve my family's love. I looked at my brother. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm not going to say I forgive him. I don't. But I'm not going to let what he did define the rest of my life either. I'm taking my power back, and I hope every person he hurt does the same." The judge sentenced him to the full 12 years. The resolution took time, but it came. My parents' home was saved from the reverse mortgage. I helped them set up proper financial protections, worked with them to establish a legitimate family trust, taught them to recognize warning signs of fraud. My father's health stabilized with proper medication management. My mother attended counseling to process the betrayal. Our relationship was different now. They couldn't undo years of favoritism and dismissal, but they tried. They asked about my work, my life, my dreams, real questions, with genuine interest. For the first time in my 32 years, they saw me as a complete person, not just the daughter who wasn't their son. Nexus Solutions issued a formal apology. The board, after reviewing all the evidence, recognized that I'd been framed. They offered me my CFO position back with a significant raise, back pay for the termination period, and a public statement clearing my name. I accepted. Walking back into that corner office felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The professional blacklist evaporated as the truth spread. Articles appeared telling the real story. CFO frames by criminal brother, fights back and wins. LinkedIn messages poured in with apologies and job offers. My reputation was restored, stronger than before. The restitution payments began slowly. I recovered about 60% of the $120,000 my brother had stolen. The fraudulent debt was cleared from my credit report through court order. My credit score climbed back up month by month. I eventually bought a house. Smaller than the dream home I'd lost, but mine. Truly mine. The 7 fraud victims I'd organized with formed a support group that grew into a nonprofit. We called it Family First Financial Safety. We taught people how to recognize financial fraud, especially within families. We advocated for stronger legal protections at the state level. We helped other victims navigate the complex process of reporting family fraud to law enforcement. I served on the board. Every meeting, I saw people who'd been where I was, betrayed, broken, but determined to rebuild. Watching them find their strength reminded me of my own. 18 months after the trial, Nexus Solutions went public. As CFO, my equity stake was suddenly worth $3 million. I sat in my office the day the stock started trading, watching the numbers climb, and thought about the girl who used to sit at her parents' dinner table, hoping for scraps of approval. She would be proud of me now. My relationship with my parents continued to evolve. We had weekly dinners, but the dynamic had shifted. I'd established boundaries. I wouldn't accept dismissal or comparison. I wouldn't let them rewrite history to make my brother's crime somehow my fault. They struggled with that sometimes, fell into old patterns of making excuses. But I held firm. "I love you," I told them one Sunday evening. "But I love myself more now, and I won't sacrifice my peace to make you comfortable." My mother cried. My father nodded slowly. "That's fair," he said. "That's more than fair." 3 years after my brother's sentencing, I was featured in a business magazine. The article was about financial fraud prevention, but it told my story too. How I'd gone from suspended CFO to advocate for fraud victims. How I'd turned my trauma into purpose. A reporter asked me if I'd ever forgive my brother. "Forgiveness is complicated," I said. "I don't wish him harm. I don't think about him much at all anymore. That's not forgiveness. That's freedom." I thought about all the years I'd spent trying to be good enough, trying to earn love that should have been freely given, sending money I could barely afford because I thought it would make me valuable to my parents, staying silent when I was dismissed because I didn't want to cause conflict. I'd learned that real love doesn't require you to disappear. That family is supposed to be your foundation, not your prison. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who don't value you, even when they share your blood. My brother taught me that trust without verification is dangerous. That people will show you who they are through their actions, not their words. That even family members can be predators. But I also learned that truth has power. That evidence and persistence can overcome even the most elaborate lies. That justice, though slow, is possible. That rebuilding is hard but worthwhile. Most importantly, I learned my own worth. Not from my parents' approval, not from my job title, not from my bank account. My worth came from my integrity, my resilience, my refusal to let someone else's cruelty define my story. I spent 32 years trying to earn my parents' love by being invisible and giving everything. I thought if I stayed quiet, sent money, never asked for recognition, they'd finally see my worth. But real love doesn't require you to disappear. The moment I stood up at that dinner table and said no more, everything changed. Not because I was louder or meaner, but because I finally valued myself enough to demand the truth. You can't fix people who don't want to see their own flaws. But you can fix yourself by walking away from tables where you're not valued, even if they're family tables. My brother didn't just steal money. He stole years of my peace, my confidence, my sense of belonging. But he couldn't steal what mattered most: my integrity, my skills, my determination. Those were mine alone, and no one could forge them away. The real victory wasn't putting him in prison or getting my job back. It was the moment I looked in the mirror and recognized the woman staring back. Strong, capable, worthy, exactly as I was. That woman didn't need her parents' approval anymore. She had her own. I still see my parents. Last Sunday, we had dinner at their house. My father asked about the nonprofit's latest advocacy campaign. My mother showed genuine pride when I explained how we'd helped pass new legislation protecting elder fraud victims. They're learning. Slowly, but they're learning. When I left that evening, my mother hugged me at the door. "I'm proud of you," she said. "I should have said that years ago, but I'm saying it now." "Thank you," I replied, and I meant it. Not because I needed her pride to feel whole, but because it was nice to receive what I'd always deserved. I drove home to my small house with my rebuilt credit and restored career. I thought about the woman I used to be, sending money she couldn't afford to parents who never received it, working herself to exhaustion for scraps of acknowledgement. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who knew her value, someone who'd fought for her truth and won. And that was worth more than any amount of money my brother could have stolen. If you've ever been the invisible child, the one who gives everything and gets nothing back, know this: your worth isn't measured by their blindness. Stand up. Speak your truth. The people who truly love you will listen. And the ones who don't, you'll realize you never needed them to begin with. Family is supposed to be your foundation, not your prison. When it becomes the latter, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is build your own foundation, brick by brick, with your own hands. That's what I did. And if I can do it, so can you. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Have you ever sacrificed everything for people who didn't see your worth? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. Your experience matters, and you're not alone. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Sharing this story might help someone else who's struggling with family betrayal or financial fraud. Sometimes knowing you're not alone makes all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brought you strength, validation, or maybe just the knowledge that fighting back is possible, even when the odds seem impossible, even when everyone doubts you, even when you doubt yourself. Truth has a way of rising to the surface. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you are worthy exactly as you are.